Session is COM 332, working with bloggers and the media to promote your app. Plan of action for today. So this is actually a presentation I gave in at Devcon America a few months ago. It was a big success and everybody loved it, so I hope everybody likes it today too. But we're going to make it better. So instead of just one lowly blogger talking to you guys, we have a panel of esteemed colleagues and more classier professional bloggers and journalists to keep me honest and to improve and enhance our discussion and answer any questions you guys have today. So, just so you're thinking ahead too, I've got 2 free t-shirts, homemade, custom. Whoever asks the best questions, as judged by somebody, I don't know, you guys are the judges to decide the best question of the day, will get these nice shirts. And they're really classy because I misspelled e-bold on the back. I forgot the E. So that makes them worth more. But so be thinking about questions to ask. The format, we're going to kind of go through the presentation, but I'm going to be throwing it back to our panelists a lot too. And I'm cool with getting questions throughout. I don't know if they get picked up on the microphones though, so if somebody has a question during the presentation, if that's okay.
You just repeat the question.
I'll just repeat the question, okay. So don't be shy. I don't like shy people. Be nice and vocal. We're going to go through a lot of common sense stuff. I mean, this is not a crazy hard topic. It's probably the easiest session to take in all week. But for some reason, common sense isn't always common sense until you hear it. So that's what we're going to deliver today. And these are topics we're going to go through. So starting with who we are. My name is Kevin Michaluk. I started a website a few years ago called crackberry.com. So I don't know if there's any readers in the audience. People have heard of it, I hope. Good. Okay, that's what I like. So it's a big BlackBerry site. We love BlackBerry. We cover the news, reviews, and everything in between. We have really big community forums. We have our stores. We sell accessories. We sell apps too. We love BlackBerry. We want them to succeed. And then I'm going to turn it over to John now at the very end. Or Eric.
Check. It was on before.
Okay, John.
Hi, I'm John Jordan. I'm one of the founders of Pocket Gamer, which is one of the leading websites. We cover mobile gaming, which is a gaming website. We cover mobile gaming, handheld gaming, all mobile platforms, and portable things, that kind of thing. And I guess we've been going for, we will be live 6 years in March. So I guess that's quite a long time for a website. Well, my name is Kai Tampia. I'm a freelancing journalist covering hardware, apps, and such stuff. Currently, I'm writing for Linux.com privately. It's a gadget blog. Hardware stuff, but I'm also doing something for Speed Online, maybe you know that one. It's the biggest German news site. And I'm there about 7 years now. I'm doing that.
Hi, I'm Eric Dupin. I run a French blog which is called Fasciton. It's one of the most read French blogs about tech and web trends and social media and the mobile internet. And it runs since July of 2005.
A long history. And I think between all the guys up here, we probably have over 10 million uniques a month, so it's a good crowd of people to know and talk to. Before we move on, one thing I want to get an idea of is the audience. So I mean, how many consumer app people are there building consumer apps? Lots, okay, good. Any enterprise people who focus on enterprise apps? Okay, cool, so we can address your needs as well. Anybody who's not BlackBerry app developers, you also do other platforms too, Android, iOS. Cool. So the good news is, we cover everything. So what you learned today from BlackBerry is going to help you on other platforms as well. In addition to Crackberry, we have sites for Android and iOS and everything too. So what I say speaks directly for them. Sounds good. One thing I want to start with is just sizing up media opportunities. And one of the things that drives guys like us nuts is when we get emails sent in that just don't fit with who we are. So, I'm a blog. I don't need a big press release and an offer to meet with somebody's CEO. And we get those kinds of things. And, big media establishments, they're sort of the opposite, where they don't really want, a single app developer saying, hey, I have an app in beta. Do you want to check it out? So, there's a big difference between niche media and traditional media. And I think knowing that difference is important when you go into promoting your apps. So, using Crackberry as an example on the left, basically you take an ecosystem like BlackBerry, right? You've got the manufacturer, you've got carriers, you've got consumers buying BlackBerries and that. And we're right in there in the middle. We grow with RIM and we shrink with RIM. And so for a company like us, we want you guys to succeed. So things that you may not think are even stories because you're just making BlackBerry apps, for us, they're news, and they help us deliver to our readers what they want. They want to be informed BlackBerry readers, they want to be informed BlackBerry owners. But for us, we want you guys to make lots of money too, because when you guys do well, BlackBerry does well, BlackBerry does well. It's very, it's a self-fulfilling kind of thing. We need it to happen. Traditional media is sometimes a little bit different, where you have your, manufacturers here duking it out against each other, and the media company sort of sits on the outside looking in, and they don't really care if it's BlackBerry winning or Android winning or vice versa. They just want news, so they report to their audience. And that's a little bit different. And there's still opportunities in there, but you got to know how to approach them a bit differently. So they might not view as news what we view as news. And then you got to know sort of the other niches, where John's a great example, where you guys are very focused on games. So you're covering everything, but your news, what you're doing, is everyday content for these guys. I think that's pretty fair to say, right?
Yeah, I think we'll probably get onto these in another slide, but the most obvious thing for me is getting emails from people who are making what might be great apps, but they're apps, they're not games. I might be interested in it from a personal level, but if it's not a game, really, I don't have time to delve into it. If it's not a game, it's just going to get deleted straight away.
It's doing your research up front. And so I think it's important, the big takeaway here is just knowing who you talk to. So for guys like us, the journey of your app, from development through initial release and updates, that's stories that interest our readers, so we like that. And then for, say, bigger media, they're going to be interested in maybe a success story. Contact them once you have 10 million downloads, then they're going to be happy to write about you. But before then, they're not interested. So just knowing the differences is really important. The next slide is the most important one in this whole presentation, so take it in. And when it comes to getting coverage, it's all about building relationships. And before you build a relationship, there's some things you should know about bloggers in general. And this is hugely important. So bloggers are lazy. Somehow, even though we're lazy, we're always busy, which I've never figured out, but it's true. We like posting stories. That's what we do, right? So, we always love it when they're first and exclusive, but we like posting stories. It's a passion. And we're social, so if you don't talk to us, it doesn't really help the cause. But the bottom line is, we want to post about your things, but because we're kind of lazy and kind of busy, the easier you make it on us to do the blog post, the better it's going to be. And we'll go through some best examples of that through this presentation. And common sense stuff. Before you reach out to somebody, be personal. Do your homework. Do some stalking. It's harder for me to ignore an email or hit delete on it when it says, "Hey Kevin, saw your tweet about this. Hoping you can check out this app we just did. Here's some screen caps attached." Because you took your time to do some homework and say something. And if I just get some, dear editor or anything like that, it's a lot easier just to ignore the email and probably get 100 more emails and forget to look at it later. So doing your research is good. Kai, do you find that's kind of the case when people reach out to you?
Yeah, exactly. It's just sending me an email and maybe not only covering the topic I'm about. Just today I got 2 emails. One was covering clothing for female. I'm not into female clothing, so I don't know what it's about. The other one was about car. Nissan car and something else. I don't care. I don't look at it. And on the other hand, if you send me an email, say, "Hey Kai, I have something, and I think you could be interested," and I'm surely going on reading because it seems like personal, right?
Yeah. And I think when we say building relationships, it's not that you need to know my girlfriend's middle name and where she lives. That's a little creepy. It's building a good working relationship over time. It's the right amount of communication at the needed amounts and the appropriate amounts. So for me personally, I like getting emails. I guess it's maybe the history of BlackBerry. We're used to dealing with emails. So we have our editorial line for submitting app requests and app review requests and that kind of thing. But I've gotten phone calls. I'm always busy during the day. And if the phone rings, and I've had developers track down my phone number and call, it's always in the middle. Without fail, it happens when I'm in the middle of something. And then I get really snappy and snarky, and I'm like, send me an email, because I don't really need, this isn't the way you do the communication. So I don't know if you guys have had that either, but I know for me, I prefer getting a good quality email versus anything else. And sometimes I get tweets and that, but you miss Twitter for a day. And
this is what we were just discussing beforehand. Obviously email is, I think it says we said send an email, don't rely on Twitter, but it's kind of, I find it getting quite a kind of messy line between, because emails, obviously we get so many, and they can be very in a sense, kind of formal, because it's very hard to know everyone's name and, you know, if you're sending out to a wide group of kind of bloggers or journalists. So I'm finding, and certainly I guess you guys as developers are finding, that Twitter is becoming increasingly important, but you can't rely on it, because at the moment I'm not really checking Twitter because I'm at this conference. So, you know, even like direct messages aren't good. But it's definitely, the relationship is, I mean, this discussion about marriage guidance, but it has to be like a long-term thing. It's not like you've got an app coming out, you know, I mean, you might have an app coming out in a month, obviously you want to promote that, but, you know, I think you're going to come to this later, that, you know, the best kind of stories that we break are people that we've known in the industry for years, you know. And some of the, you know, some of the times, you know, I think I'm a bit mean sometimes, because sometimes with my people I'm friends with, I'm harder on their games, maybe, if I'm reviewing them, than people I don't know. So I kind of think, well, I know you can do better than that, you know. But it is definitely just that kind of always being in touch, you know, and always, you know, knowing what people are doing. And sometimes I think the best examples, I mean, games, I guess, is a much tighter community maybe than some other kind of app development, but even just someone, they're not telling you it for news, for you to write news about it. They're just saying, oh, we just signed this game, you know, it's going to be really, really exciting. And it's just passing that information back, backwards and forwards, I find is the most useful thing. Because then I know what I think is news. Sometimes in press release you get something that's kind of like, someone telling you this is news, and I'm just, no, it's not, for me that's not, you know, it might not be news, it may be, but...
I think it's part of the research phase, right? Is watching for the kind of content a site publishes over time. So I mean, if we read your site, or you read a site like Cracker, you're going to see what kinds of stories we do. You know, just read the site for a couple of weeks in your RSS reader, and you know, if you're sending an email in, send something in that kind of matches that editorial calendar policy. That's going to play to that.
Actually, I mean, I think kind of the best trick, but a really good thing is sometimes, and we have a consumer site, Pocket Gamer, and then we have a biz site, which is mainly what I run day to day. So it's much more kind of business to business. But sometimes, you know, a PR person or someone from a company will say, "Oh, we saw you wrote about this other company, and we're doing something similar to this." Or if they're being a bit more cheeky, they'll say, "Our thing's much better than them. You should talk to us." And that's, you know, I think that's quite a piece into that relationship that gets me interested. Oh, they've read this thing that we've written about someone else. You know, but if you're doing a game, don't say more addicted than Angry Birds, because that's really, we're not going to believe that.
What if it's true?
What if it's true?
Show me the download numbers.
If it's true, I want to buy in right now. 20%. Let's make some money. Here's a good example. You know, you guys want examples, right? So yesterday during the keynote, mention was made of Bellshare as being, I think, the top developer in the region who's made the most money off Apple. And, you know, part of that reason is great quality apps that fit a good need. He does a good job. Another reason is because he's by far and away the absolute best developer who knows how to work with the bloggers like us. And here's a history, you know, looking through my inbox of emails I've received from Bellshare over time and what they're about. And, I mean, you can see, you know, he's got a new release. There's an update, there's a sale, we want to give away some free copies. He's working with us, right, all the time. It's a relationship, you know. It's not a super in-depth one. I don't know his wife's middle name, which is fine. But here's an example of what's in an email. Just super clear, straightforward. You know, hi Kevin, wanting to let you know this. Here's the key bullet points. Hey, you know what's even better? Here's a beautiful looking image and some videos. Use them if you want to or not. But guess what? You know, it's a good looking image. It saved me like 20 minutes of work just by giving me a nice looking image. How can I not write that blog post? He made it so easy for me. It took me 5 minutes now instead of 15 or 20. Yes, question?
So what I feel that you're getting so many emails and it's very difficult for you to filter out what's good and what's bad.
Yes.
So wouldn't it be easier for you and for us as app developers for you to provide a template? So you say, I want to know 1, 2, 3 and the screenshots. I want to see screenshots. I want to see video. I want to see...
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
find what you need to know, so we can help you, and we have some section to write whatever we want.
Absolutely. So the question there, just to repeat it for the audio, is, you know, why don't you add a submission form to your sites to make it easy to submit apps? Good idea. A lot of sites do have that. Some of our sites do have that. I know some of the other BlackBerry sites have that also, and I'm sure, I don't know if any of your sites do. I think it's something like, for us, it's actually one of the things on our feature request, or that's going into production this year, so that'll be a feature on the site. The thing about that too, though, is it kind of locks you in from building a relationship. You know, so I do like the fact we can communicate back and forth very easily in a straight up manner. And I mean, for us, we do have people who are monitoring those lines and are going back and forth. But whether submission form or email, the big thing here is to go above and beyond with the effort, right? Like make an effort to make it easy on us. You know, submitting a big press release, it's like, okay, now I need to read it. I need to create my own bullet points off of it. You're making it harder to do what, you know, you can do, and you know your app's better than anybody else, right? So it's very much a help us help you. But agreed, that's a lot of sites do have that. And that's something that we will be getting to also. So.
The interesting part is that what Kevin said before, the most important sheet was the one that we are lazy, also always busy. And what you see here is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. If I see that one, sorry, that wasn't the subject. But it's really important that you know the right subject. Give me a hint what is in this email. If I see the subject and I see, okay, I'm not interested. I'm not looking into it. If you say, hi Kai, how are you doing? I'm not looking into it because it's my business email address. So write in, I have a new app, racing car game, version 1.0. And then you give me the details, like here. I need a screenshot, so I don't have to look at after it. I need a video, so I can just look into it. Like you said yesterday, you're looking into the first 10 seconds, and you decide whether you look more or not. And well, leave out all the stuff like, hi, I'm here, I'm having a good time, how are you doing, how was your weather, and stuff. Just say, hi, nice to meet you, this is my name, this is my company, I'm doing stuff, it's great. Like, I have a racing game, it's great. It has the multiplayer capability, and downloaded it. It's for BlackBerry 4.7.
Now, what I'm going to add though is, you know, if you're emailing Kai, make sure you say, "Hey Kai, I saw you at BlackBerry Devcon Europe. I was in your session, which was awesome. By the way, here's my app, and it's good. You should check it out and give me a good review." So,
just very quickly adding. I mean, this is ideal. I mean, this is your template for certainly. I think normally this is what we want to kind of get. I've kind of two bugbears. When it comes to games now, a lot of people on app stores will have like a screen grab and then put marketing kind of guff over it, going great, addictive, and I can understand why in an app store you do that, but certainly we just want straight screen grabs with nothing on them. And I mean, I may be a little more kind of strict than other people, but I mean, if there aren't those screen provided, I've bought games in the past just to get screen grabs if I think the game's good enough, because we don't want those marketing things on there. And the other thing is, often people talk about attachments. I always like to see stuff in the body of a text, in the body of the email. I mean, it's fine to have, some people for some reason like to put things as PDFs and docs, that's fine, but the relevant information should be obviously, you know, in the body of the email.
yeah, straight copy and paste job if you need it.
No, exactly. No,
Make it easy.
And as I said before, just to say, YouTube for me, I mean, certainly for games, there's, you know, we get so many descriptions of games. It's a twin stick shooter, it's a tower defense game, but you know, it's very difficult to tell. The first thing I do is always straight to video. If there's not a video there, unless I know the developer, it's very hard for me to judge what I think about that game. So, and the same thing with videos. Some people do these kind of long trailers where you have the backstory. That's great, but that's not very helpful to me. So there should be at least a gameplay video where it's pretty much just straight into the gameplay.
Yeah, I think there's almost two types of videos that I like to see come along with this, say, sort of kind of email. One is the one where the developer is just showing off the app quickly, and it's more so for my benefit, right? So I can just see what it's about without having to even spend time. You know, I just get a better idea right away. And you know, in that video, I'm not going to use it on say Cracker. I'm not going to repost it from YouTube out of your account. But at least we know what it's about a lot quicker, so it's helping us save time. And then, you know, if we do our full review, we'll do our own videos for it, you know, depending on where we rate the app in our sort of priority list for how much effort we're going to put into it. But then the second one is, you know, sometimes developers just do really awesome videos that are really creative and fun. And then I'm like, oh, well, I won't use screen caps here. I'll just embed that, you know, and it's cool, right? Because you're helping us raise our quality content on our site by giving us some really unique stuff to work with. But I mean, I think on probably games you see more of that maybe, but I don't see a lot of that come through on the app front. So.
Just to get on the topic of the PDF,
Sure.
Send me a JPEG, not a PDF. Oh, yeah, really. JPEG or PNG, whatever, but if I have a PDF, I have to copy it out of it. I have to make efforts to get the picture out of it, because I'm not taking the PDF on the URL on my domain and taking a picture. So send me a picture of the PDF.
Bloggers are passionate. Remember that. Don't send PDFs.
What about if we want to copy the text from the PDF?
Yeah, the text is okay, but not the pictures.
Yes.
I mean, I want to show them the pictures. My visitors want to see the pictures. But if I have a PDF, how do I get the PDF up on it? That's not easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Also direct me to a cloud space and say, download from there, there's no problem.
Another thing I wanted to touch on quick is, just in terms of building relationships, since that's what we're talking about for a minute, is, go beyond bloggers and the media. So, I mean, an event like Devcon here, there's RIM people everywhere. I mean, you need to be talking to them. I don't think RIM has ever published the secret magic sauce for getting your app onto the App World featured carousel. But I know it probably doesn't hurt if you know RIM employees who you've met at these conferences who you can email and say, please, please, please put me on the carousel. And sometimes it happens. So they might not want us saying that, but you're here. Talk to people, get to know everybody you can. Other thing too, we're talking about Twitter earlier, stuff like that. The internet's big on this word influence these days that may or not be related to bloggers and media. So it's easy enough. There's tools out there to try to find who are the prominent influencers. So if you go to a site like Clout and go to the technology category and the BlackBerry category, you can see how many Twitter followers they have, and reach out to them and say, hey, here's a free app, just take it. Try this out. I'd love to see what you think of it. And they might not like it, so you got to be tactful about it. And again, build up a relationship. But I know a lot of people in the BlackBerry space who just love free stuff, so they'll be more flattered and honored that you reached out to them and jump it up. And jump at the chance to take it, and then you build some people rooting for you at the same time. Moving on from relationships, unless there's anything else you want to add on that side. Okay. So opportunities in the app life cycle. So this is my theory. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's just kind of from observing the history of over time of the way things have rolled out. This is kind of where I see the opportunities for app developers to kind of get free promotion out there. Now, this won't be free promotion on every website. Nothing's guaranteed. I mean, it depends on how good the app is, the quality of it, and everything else. But again, talking about BellShare as an example with apps like Berryweather and BBuzz that they've done and been so successful with, they basically are a perfect example of taking this app cycle and milking it for every dollar it's worth, right? In a really good way. So we're going to walk through each of these kind of step by step, give you some of the examples again of what works, what doesn't work, and we'll continue to add to the discussion. And please again ask questions if you have any. So to me, phase one is sort of this idea phase. You're thinking about your app, you have a great app idea, or you think it's a great app idea. Right then you have to think about the promotional and marketing opportunities for it, because not all apps are equal. In the year 2012, it's hard to get excited about another flashlight app in BlackBerry App World. You might be building the greatest flashlight app ever, but it's still going to be hard for us to want to blog it, every step of the way. So know that, and if you're building a game that's going to be more addicting than the next Angry Birds, that's awesome. But then if you succeed with that, you're probably going to get a lot of coverage without a lot of effort also. So kind of knowing what you're working with is really good. And just good to keep in mind. So, you set your expectations reasonably. And, over time, some of the things that we've seen that don't work, copycat apps, right? You're not going to get much coverage if there's already a really successful app. Speaking more apps than games here, but if there's already a successful, Berryweather is a good example, right? Very successful, dominant app in the space. You can release a new Berry weather client, but if we already know all our readers and all of our, the BlackBerry people have bought that app, and it kind of looks like it's a Me Too copycat, it might get blogged a couple times, but it's likely not going to get the same kind of love from the blogger sphere in general as the established ones. Although if you do leapfrog it, then it's probably going to turn into some good content and comparisons and head-to-heads. And the big thing here too is vaporware apps. There's a few apps out there that they just don't do what they say, and for some reason sometimes they get a lot of downloads, but the people from people who aren't that knowledgeable of BlackBerry users, so they think it's just going to solve all their problems. But then the smarter bloggers and that, they know exactly what it is, and it's not going to get much coverage. So, again, knowing your ideas before you go out there. I don't know if you guys have anything to add on there. That's sort of.
Well, I mean, it's definitely. I mean, clones are definitely on the game side at the moment. And there's a massive thing on the Apple App Store with people, overtly cloning games to try and kind of get the downloads from confused people who buy Temple Jump instead of Temple Run, and clearly, a lot of those apps have been pulled down now. But I mean, I think partly on the game side, obviously, lots of people are inspired by other games. And I kind of think, as developers, have to be a little bit honest. If we all know that there were trajectory-type games before Angry Birds, but the one that everyone knows is Angry Birds. So, if you're doing that kind of game, I kind of think it's a bit false pretenses to say it's more addictive than Angry Birds, or to not think that we're going to basically use something like, it's the Angry Birds potentially clone, or that's the way we're going to describe it to our readers. And I think people need to be a bit more upfront about. That's just how journalists are going to describe it, whether you've actually overtly gone out to kind of copy a game in some way. But I do think that there is, the whole word clone is becoming, in the gaming side, is becoming quite a negative one. So I think it's something people do need to be kind of quite careful of, even if they're doing it in a, we were inspired by this game and we've added these new features. I think people should be quite upfront about that, really.
And it's possible, from a business revenue standpoint, maybe there's money to be made with the clone games and clone apps, but just from a media coverage standpoint, you're never going to get that.
Well, actually, the best example, and it's not really a clone thing, we were talking about last night, there's a Swedish company, and they basically worked out, or they put in Google kind of words, what were the most searched for game words, and they overtly, that was the whole PR thing, they came up with angry ninja, fighting, literally it was the top 5 search words, and that was the name of their game. And they did. As a game, it was kind of okay. But then it was funny because they were overtly, he said in the press release, this is what we've done. That's the story, I'm sure they did better in that kind of downloads, and everyone wrote about it, and the game was kind of okay.
How do you not blog that, though? That's a funny story. Moving ahead, so you have your great app idea. The next thing is building the app, right? You got to develop it. So that's where you guys do your hardest work. You put in the blood, sweat, and tears and everything else. There's a couple things to keep in mind, right? It doesn't matter how good the app idea is, if it launches and it's buggy or it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. You're going to get low ratings in App World. It's going to get ripped apart, and it becomes much harder to kind of get the momentum going again once you've stalled it. So you got to do a lot of beta testing. And wisdom from the BlackBerry Storm days that we saw was when that Storm got introduced, it was the first touchscreen BlackBerry. Everything else was sort of this trackball, track wheel paradigm. And a lot of the BlackBerry developers weren't supporting the Storm right away, yet there was millions of people buying the Storm. So every single blog post we did about any app, if it wasn't available for the BlackBerry Storm also, it was like 100 comments just saying, who cares, it's not available for the Storm, who cares, why are you blogging this that's not available for the Storm? And, that was a lesson years ago we learned, and still today we get it happening. So, here's an example where Zymat, and they do a good job, they released, 4 new games, awesome new games for BlackBerry, and what are my comments? No OS 7, not available for the 9930. What's the point if it's not OS 7 compatible? So, it might add a little extra time to the development cycle and all that, but trying to support as many devices, especially the popular devices and the new devices that people are spending money on apps from immediately is really important.
But doesn't this mean that your blog site or source should be more personalized?
In terms of, partially there should be an OS compatibility. Doesn't matter though.
No?
One RSS feed, people follow. You're not going to have people following just RSS feeds for specific OS versions, right? So you could do better filtering and sorting. That doesn't matter though. It's still an article going out through an RSS feed. It's going to get read. You're not going to put it in the headline, Zymat releases for everything except BlackBerry 7 because that's going to make it even worse, the comments. It comes down, developers have to support as many things as possible. And it's getting really messy right now because obviously Ring's going through this transition of BlackBerry OS and BlackBerry 10 ramping up. So for us, it's really messy. And I'm working on that problem because BlackBerry OS is going to be around for a while. and there's going to be a lot of apps there and a lot of money to be made in that space. But BlackBerry 10 is going to be ramping up. Our motto is we need to cover everything, but I also need to try to serve multiple parties with the two platforms, and then still these various OS versions. So in my perfect world, developers would build for both platforms at once with every title. I don't think that's going to happen. So it's going to be a messy period of time over the next 12, 24 months until everything's eventually moves up to the V10 platform. But I mean, I just wanted to show, right, something to keep in mind, because if you release it and you're not supporting the big things, you're going to get shredded without any judgment of the app itself, right? You're just getting judged based on a lack of compatibility. And this slide, you can find these charts. I actually don't know if this is the most current stats on the BlackBerry developer website. And they put this out, and it's really important to look at because it's showing you your subscribers by OS, but also your downloads out of App World. And you can see on the left that basically like BlackBerry 6 and higher is making up only a quarter on the far left there of the subscribers in the maybe 75 million users. But in terms of App World downloads, it's over 3/4 of the downloads happening. So basically, even though the number is small in terms of BlackBerry owners, BlackBerry 6, BlackBerry 7 is where the money's being made, right? That's where the downloads are happening. So again, coming back to that last slide where they weren't supporting 7, they're basically not making the money they could because they were targeting older OSs that people aren't necessarily downloading with as well. So that's a super important one. I don't have the link for that, but it's pretty easy to find.
Bye-bye, Kevin.
on the
No
websites.
battery.